Welcome to the tutorial Documenting Medication History. In this tutorial, you will learn how to review and update a patient's medication list as part of the patient intake process, add over-the-counter herbal supplements or other home meds to a patient's medication list, and you will learn how to add, modify patient compliance on the listed medications where the patient indicates a change. Maintaining an active medications list is a meaningful use measure. You should be making a point to review the patient's current medications with the patient at every visit. From the medications list, click the Document Medications by History button. The Document Meds by History screen displays a list of the patient's historical medications. From this window, you will review with the patient the status of their medications. Historical medications include prescribed medications from mission-affiliated doctors who use the system. They also include over-the-counter medications, herbal supplements, and vitamins, as well as medications prescribed by doctors not utilizing Cerner. The Document Medications by History screen is comprised of two main sections. The Documented Medications by HX identifies medications that the patient is currently taking based on patient-provided information. These items are denoted with a scroll icon. The Prescription section of the page lists medications that were prescribed by a mission-affiliated provider that has access to this chart via the EMR. These medications are denoted with a pill bottle icon. If no medications are listed on this screen and the patient indicates that they are not presently taking any medications, then you will click the option No Known Home Medications. However, if your patient has a populated medications list as shown here, you will add new medications that are not listed and then update compliance concerning the medications that are listed. It is important to note that you should not modify, suspend, complete, cancel DC, or delete a patient's medications. That is the role of the provider. Adding a historical medication. If a patient tells you that they are taking an over-the-counter medication, herbal supplement, or a prescription med that is not already listed, you will add it from the Document Medication by History screen. Adding an over-the-counter medication. To add an over-the-counter medication, click the Add button. In the search field, type the name of the medication, for example, Tylenol. A quick fill list displays where you can select from the options displayed or click Enter to see more options. The Order Sentences window displays the most common order details utilized by providers. You can select a default sentence for how the patient is taking the medication. Selecting None will allow you to enter a custom sentence. Tip: if you have limited information from the patient, pick the order sentence that is the closest to the information you have. From there, you can easily modify the few terms that varied. With the options selected, click the OK button. The medication is now on the list and highlighted. The Details display, which allows you to make any changes needed to the selected sentence. None of the fields are marked as required. However, you should enter as much information as you can gather before continuing on with your documentation. Adding a miscellaneous medication. There may be times a patient informs you that they are taking an herbal supplement or a medication that you are unable to find in the search box. In that instance, you will use the option of adding a miscellaneous med. In the search field, type MISC. From the quick list, select Miscellaneous RX. In the Details section that displays below, type as much information as you can gather from the patient about the medication. For example, this patient is taking 1 to 2 kelp tablets daily with meals. The medication is added on the list. If the displayed information is correct, you will continue with your documentation. Adding a historical prescription medication. The process for adding a historical prescription medication is very similar to adding an over-the-counter medication. In the search field, type the name of the medication. Note: correct spelling of medication names is vital. Tip: Type the first few letters of the medication name and allow the system to search based on the information you entered. Pressing the Enter key will expand your options. A quick fill list appears where you can select from the options displayed or click Enter to see more options. For example, if the patient does not know the dosage of their medication, pressing the Enter key will allow you to simply pick the medication name and not add details related to the medication strength or dosing. Once a medication is selected, the Order Sentences window displays where you can select a default sentence for how the patient is taking the medication. Selecting None will allow you to enter a custom sentence. With the sentence selected, click the OK button to continue. The details for the highlighted medication display below and can be modified to conform to how the patient is taking the medication. Documenting compliance on patient medications. If a patient indicates that they are no longer taking a listed medication, or they are not taking it the way they were instructed, you need to record that information so that the provider can make a decision for how to proceed with the patient's care. From the medication list, select the medication. For example, the patient has told you they are no longer taking Rocephin. With the medication selected, right mouse click. A menu displays with options for the medication. Select the option Add Modify Compliance. The Compliance Details tab opens at the bottom of the window. Click the Status drop-down. The Compliance Options display. The compliance options are Still Taking as Prescribed. If the patient is taking the medication as prescribed, you will not need to update compliance. Not Taking. Use this option if the patient indicates they are no longer taking the medication. Still Taking, Not as Prescribed. Use this option if the patient indicates they are not taking the medication based on prescribed instructions. Unable to Obtain. If the patient is unable to communicate how they are taking the medication, you would select this option. Investigating. If you need to gather more information before documenting a status, select this option. In our example, the patient is no longer taking their Rocephin, so the option is to select Not Taking. With the status selected, you can update the other fields such as Information Source, Last Dose, and Comment. The comment should reflect any details around the compliance. In this scenario, the patient completed the medication. You can continue documenting medication compliance by selecting Other Medications, right mouse clicking on them and selecting Add Modify Compliance. Completing medication history documentation. After all historical medications have been added and compliance on listed medications verified, you are ready to complete the medication history documentation. From the Document Medication by History window, click the Document History button. Once the Document History button is selected, you are returned to the medication list and the Meds History displays with a green check. This concludes the tutorial on documenting medication history. In this tutorial, you learned how to add patient historical medications to their chart and how to add or modify compliance on previously entered medications to reflect the current state of how the patient is taking the medication.